Robert Salah got fired today, and the Jets season is burning down more than the London Bridge. We got that. We got Drake Maye starting, and I got two Patriots fans to talk about that. All that and more coming up on the Gridiron. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Gridiron, brought to you by Housecall Sports. I'm Justin, joined by Rob and T, and we are going to be talking about some NFL football today. But before we get into all of that, a quick word from our sponsors over at Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the most trustworthy and easy to navigate ticketing website. They have reliable and rewarding tickets and a 100% buyer guarantee, which means your transactions will be safe and secure. You get full service customer care and be compensated for any canceled events. And they also have the only ticket rewards program around. Look, it's NFL season's underway. MLB playoffs is here. NBA and NHL will be starting up soon. I know I got my tickets for when the Philadelphia Eagles come here and face the Giants. These guys, now that Drake Maye is the quarterback, maybe they end up going over there to Foxborough and seeing some games. But if you want to get your tickets, Vivid Seats is the way to go. So do us a favor, hit that link down in the description below. Get your tickets for all your favorite teams and go sit vividly. Fellas, we got some NFL football to talk about. And I think y'all are going to enjoy these first two stories. So I'm going to save the one that y'all really care about for the second topic. But for the first one, the Jets season is officially over. Not only did they go to London and poorly lose out to the Minnesota Vikings, who is now 5-0, by the way. And not only did Aaron Rodgers throw not one, not two, but three interceptions in that game, but they come back to the United States and Robert Salah gets fired the next day. So, is the Jets season officially over, and should they have made this call?
Yes, it is. It's over. London Bridges is falling down. It's done. They're done. They're done. I said this before the season. Aaron Rodgers and his Achilles heel, whatever it is, he's washed. I've been said this. And you can go and try to go smoke up your ashwagandha. It's not going to be enough to try to go take a darkness retreat. Listen, there's a reason why him and his whole, what's in between his ears, it ain't there. He's not mentally mature enough. I said this before the season. I told Jets fans, I was like, you're going to have a guy that cannot have the mental maturity. He's not only not going to have the mental maturity, he's not a leader, and he's a choke artist in the playoffs. So you got all those things that are coming along. He's a choke artist in general. So I just don't think especially when you're going to be where the New York media is, that's going to be heavily, firsthand, they're going to be heavily critical of him. Now we're going to see what happens when now you don't have a scapegoat in Robert Salah anymore to basically pick up after your bullshit.
T, you got anything for this one? Because I see Rob's fired up on this story.
Yeah, I see. He could have spoke from the both of us. The season was over before it started, and it wasn't a Salah thing. It's everything he alluded to. It's an Aaron Rodgers thing. The man is an Achilles heel. The man is known for getting coaches fired, cough Mike McCarthy. So we can't act surprised that another coach leaves and he retains his job when he has been the reason for the inept productivity, essentially the lack thereof. It's so lackluster at this point. And it's not just being a Patriots fan where you hear the comparisons to Brady, but it's knowing that at no point in time did Brady get a coach fired. At no point in time did Brady make a coach seem inept. At no point was there tension enough to where it translated on the field in such a way to where it's obvious that you don't want anything to do with your head coach. I do think that firing Salah was the wrong move. They fired the wrong guy as far as I'm concerned. The defense has been playing stellar. It's the offense that has been lacking. I'm not sure of the stats of the number of teams that fired a coach going 2-3, but I can tell you I've seen coaches start significantly worse and still keep their jobs. Some of them are still coaching right now as a head coach. I didn't think 2-3 was enough. I thought it was a bit much. It sounds like there's something more going on behind the scenes that we're just not aware of, especially for the GM to come out and say this was all on me, this was my doing, which means you didn't speak with anybody, you didn't consult with anybody, you just went out seemingly on a limb and made a decision that you felt was best suiting for you. But it's alarming. When I look at the Packers of Aaron Rodgers' last 5 seasons with the Packers, 3 of those 5 seasons, the Packers were the number 1 seed in the NFC. Ask me how many times they made the Super Bowl. Ask me how many times they made it out of the first round, or not the first round, out of the divisional series. They lost. They had the first week bye. The next week they lost every single year that they were the number one seed to the 49ers, if you can believe it, which means teams come to Lambeau and they handle business in the place that you just can't win. It matters the most. 20 years, one Super Bowl appearance. You got the ring, but time now needs to be told that you can't keep blaming everybody else. You know the old saying, if Jack got a problem with Jill, if Jack got a problem with James, if Jack got a problem with Johnny, Jack is the problem. So Robert wasn't the problem. It was Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I still can't believe that the Jets are the first person to fire a head coach, because I swear to God, I thought it was going to be Jacksonville be the first ones to fire a head coach, which that may happen come Black Monday. When it comes to the Jets, I think this was the right move. I feel like Robert Salah is a A-plus defensive coordinator, but not a head coach right now. I feel like he needs more seasoning as a coach in the NFL before he's ready to take on that big of a role. But I thought at the very least Woody Johnson would give him until the end of the season, see where it went before inevitably firing him. But Woody Johnson did what all owners should know not to do, and that's fire your head coach 5 games in to the season. Because you know who's the last team to fire their coach in the middle of the season, the early part of it? Carolina. And how they doing right now? They're doing a little bit better now that Andy Dalton's the quarterback.
What doesn't make sense to me is your head coach is first in points per drive, first in EPA per drive, and third in succession rate. And I'm not talking about the offense led by what the fuck was his name? Hacking. He definitely can't hack it. The defense is why this team is successful. This defense is why this is a top 3, arguably top 1 defense. And you're gonna throw the one guy that's keeping that. He will have a job tomorrow as a defensive coordinator.
Yes,
and I just don't get it. Aaron Rodgers, how many times are you gonna throw multiple picks? And this guy just, he rubbed me the wrong way because of just. He's not a leader, and that's what they needed in New York. They needed a leader, and he just doesn't have he's selfish. I mean, look at during training camp. There was a couple of days where I believe he missed. I don't care how old you are.
He missed all of it. It was all mandatory,
he missed all of it.
Not optional. He missed mandatory.
Okay, so when you got players like the young players in Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, who are impressionable, this is what you do.
Yeah. And here's the thing about that, since you brought up the leadership thing. I was watching the game. I was at work, but I had my laptop open while I work, and I have the game playing in the background. And after the second interception that Aaron Rodgers threw, all I hear from the commentary crew is the fact that he went to the sidelines, sat by himself, did not talk to his receivers, did not talk to his O-line, nothing. Tyrod Taylor did that and spoke to the wide receivers. Tyrod is the backup quarterback, and he is doing more in a leadership standpoint than Aaron Rodgers is doing.
New York Jets, you have now screwed up 3 quarterbacks. Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, and now Aaron Rodgers. The only one that's seeing ghosts is your front office, not Sam Darnold.
No. Aaron Rodgers, as far as I can see right now, screwed over himself. Because of not only the way he plays, but the way he does conduct himself, which is his personality. And during his prime, we all overlooked it because he was putting up the numbers. But the way that the Jets are going right now, it's not happening. As for Salah, he's going to be fine. He's still getting paid by the Jets for the next 2 years under his contract. So he's fine financially, and he could get a job tomorrow as a defensive coordinator.
I think it's like $13 per minute, which is insane.
$13 a minute. That's crazy. But so is NFL contracts. But he's going to get a job tomorrow. And if I was at all teams, the 49ers, I'd be giving him a call.
Oh,
that defense, he knows the personnel in there, and they know his system. That defense could turn around their season in a heartbeat and get them back on track.
$13.32 per minute, $799 per hour, $19,178 per day, $134,615 per week, and $583,333 per month. The Jets are gonna jet.
The Jets are gonna jet, and here's another problem, and I'm gonna say this as the last topic. Personally, for me, I don't believe defensive head coaches can succeed in today's NFL because head coaches, one of their other jobs is to develop quarterbacks. Because it seems like the offensive-minded head coaches that are good at developing quarterbacks are the ones that succeed the most. And Salah and most of the defensive head coaches, aside from Pete Carroll, who's the last one that I've seen win a Super Bowl, it's just not flying right now.
Well, so Las Vegas odds has Bill Belichick as a favorite as a head coach. That's not happening, by the way. He'll probably write on another napkin that he doesn't want to go there. But Mike Vrabel at plus 500, Ben Johnson at plus 600. If I had to put my money on it, it's probably Mike Vrabel.
Ben Johnson's not taking it. He
No.
wants
or Bobby Slowick plus 800. So we'll see.
Ben Johnson's at that point where he's like, if it's not going to give me as good, if not a better situation than what I got in Detroit, I'm staying, which is the smartest thing to do right now. But we got some more topics to talk about, and we're staying in the AFC East because y'all got some good news that your number one draft pick, Drake Maye, is going to start on your team. The Patriots made it official. They are making a quarterback change. Rob over here went viral on Instagram for his reaction to it. We should have that cut into this at some point. Guys, how are y'all feeling that you got your quarterback on the field coming up?
You didn't say Drake. His full name is Drake motherfucking Maye. It's Drake. It's hold my Drake. Hold my drink. Listen, I'm not going to say he's going to go and light up the world against the Texans. That defensive pass rush with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter is a problem. And we seen what that defense did to Josh Allen. Let me say 9 for 30, 131 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 sack, 45.7 pressure rate. It's going to be pressured a lot. One thing is, I think that Josh Allen tends to hold the football a little bit longer than I think Drake Maye will. I think predominantly what I think is going to happen is that the Patriots are going to run the football. But going back to Drake Maye, let's fucking go! It's about time we have a quarterback that could pass for 150 fucking yards. Oh my God. You know what? I think that the nail in the coffin was him passing the football on a Hail Mary to the middle of the field to Hunter Henry. How stupid are you? He pulled a Dak Prescott. I didn't think it was possible. Where you remember that one play? It was like 4th and 1, and he rushes for 13 yards, and it's like, dummy, you just ended your playoff trip. You ended go hello Cancun, goodbye. Drake Maye, look, man, it's not gonna be this game because I think they're gonna stick to the run attack. But rest in peace, the Jaguars, because he's gonna light them up like a fucking Christmas tree.
Yeah, I'm more so excited for my pocketbooks. When I looked at BetMGM and FanDuel and a few other betting sites, the question was yes or no, does Drake Maye play this year? And yes was at like minus 290, so it wasn't worth getting pennies on the dollar. But DraftKings had a promo where they said, will he play before week 7? And that was at plus 210. So I put $100 on that. So now I just have to wait for him to hike the ball on the first snap on Sunday to pass, go and collect my $200, literally. So one, I'm excited about that because Drake Maye just made it rain in this here household. You know, $100 is just an adult dollar. But when you get some adult dollars on a weekend, it just makes everything better. But ultimately, I was talking with Rob earlier. Initially, I was upset. I'll be completely honest. Initially, I was upset because I need a coach that can stick to their guns. I can't do wishy-washy. I can't do it's raining one day, it's snowing the next day. If you came in convinced that Jacoby was the guy, if you came in convinced that Drake Maye needed to develop, then damn it, stick to that. Let him sit the entire 17 games, build in the offseason, not just build in the draft, but get some splashes in free agency and convince people to come play here at Gillette Stadium. Oh, but when your offense is dead last in arguably every category, who's going to want to come play here? Who's going to trust Drake Maye when they haven't seen him? Who's going to trust this offense's capability or lack thereof? Who's going to say, you know what? I should. How can you convince an Ayuk or Devontae Adams or anybody else, maybe one of these guys that's nearing the end of their rookie contracts? How can you convince anybody offensively to come play in this offense when it looks as bad as it does? That's when it clicked in my head that this was the move that needed to be made, because you need some type of excitement. This offense needs to be revived, and you absolutely have to be convincing enough to not just depend on the draft to develop players. You need at least 1 or 2 solid guys in free agency. We all know how free agency works. We need to convince ourselves that we are worth somebody coming over here and they're worth receiving top dollar. You can't do that when your lead receiver is your tight end. You can't do that when over the course of 5 games, you have 2 passing touchdowns. You can't do that when you have guys on this team that are starting that have less receptions and receiving touchdowns than a quarterback for the Detroit Lions in Jared Goff. The fact that a quarterback with 1 target has 1 reception and 1 touchdown, and we have starters. We have a guy that ran a blazing 4.2, and it took him 5 weeks to get even close to that. Your job is to run routes. Your job is to get open. That is a negative 19 job. So when the quarterback is doing your job better than you, I would rather have a quarterback that runs a 5.5 that can catch the ball than the guy that runs a 4.2 and can't create space. So ultimately, I'm excited because I know we get to see this young guy. I know it's a home game, so I'm excited. If this was a road game, I would have said absolutely not. Do not put him under the lights at Houston going against that surefire defense. But for offensive purposes and for it being in Foxborough, I think that he's going to have the entire stadium behind him. I think that he's going to extend drives. I think he's going to keep plays alive. I think he's going to prove, to Rob's point, that the silly mistakes that Jacoby Brissett was making, he won't prove that he can make because he's been taking all of this time to develop.
Yeah, Tyquan Thornton has a 19% negative separation rate, which is Jalen Polk has a 0%, so it shows you how much he freaking gets open. But look, man, Drake Maye's gonna, I don't know if he's gonna light it up this game, but the Jags are gonna get it, because this is what I gotta point out this stat: 2.71 seconds. And that's how much, what's the average time to throw the football? It's 2.5 seconds. So our offensive line is heavily exaggerated how bad it is. Is it great? No. Is it middle of the pack? No. It's probably around like 22 to 25. But when your quarterback is holding the ball an average to 3 seconds, that is not an O-line problem. That is a U problem. Our left tackle and our left guard, Vidarian Lowe and Michael Jordan, not the Michael Jordan that y'all are thinking of, but he played like Michael Jordan, averaging 4 seconds before a pressure rate. 4 seconds. How much time do you need, Jacoby Brissett? The left side is your blind side, and both the left tackle and the left guard are averaging over 4 seconds. So what is the problem here? Is it the offensive line? Because now I'm of the mindset that maybe this offensive line is not as bad as people make it out to be. Yeah, they do give up pressures. Yeah, they do give up sacks. But those 11, 12-yard runs that you see from Jacoby Brissett, like I said in T's podcast, will be 30 by Drake Maye.
I think that ultimately, to your point, being dead last, anything is better than being dead last. That's just first and foremost. Anything is better than being dead last. And hindsight being 2020, we can look back over the course of the first 5 games and we can acknowledge that Ramondre Stevenson, though he had his fumbling issues, was averaging a lot. When Antonio Gibson was coming in making a splash. And if you were to argue between the two of them who should start, I still say Gibson because he doesn't put the ball on the ground. 4 games, 4 fumbles, that's a problem for me. But you still have a good 1-2 punch. You have the makings of a David Montgomery and a Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's not an exaggeration. You have a solid 1-2 punch that can go out there, create open space. But what happens is when you're so heavily reliant on the run, nobody's concerned about the pass. So now they can stack the box with 8 guys and leave 3 DBs out there, and they have no concern in the world. Do you know how disrespectful it is, Jay, to go out there to see 8 men in the box as if they're playing bear defense, to have 5 down linemen, 3 backers, two DBs and a safety and saying, I'm not concerned with what you're going to do over top. That is so demoralizing to AVP and to any offense trying to create some open space. You don't have guys dropping back to the seam to make sure nobody gets behind them. You don't have guys covering hook to curl or curl to flat. You're just like, hey, make sure they don't get the first down. And
I dare you to
somehow,
do that.
some way,
I dare you to do that against Drake Maye. I dare you to do that against Drake Maye.
I double dog dare you to do
Load
that.
the box,
I dare
please.
you.
Load the box, please. You will.
Yeah.
I promise you, right, Justin? You were one of the people that were ahead of the game in terms of when we did our draft. We did our draft reaction on not draft reaction. We were at the live draft when we did it. The Housecall Sports. You were one of the people that said this kid was going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because he put up essentially the same numbers as the Heisman winner, but just didn't get any buzz around it because of the overall record of the North Carolina Tar Heels. Jaden Daniels, when he won the Heisman, had 40 passing touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns. That's freaking ridiculous, first and foremost. 40 and 10 is flat out stupid numbers. Drake Maye had 38 passing touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns. 2 less passing touchdowns than the Heisman winner and 3 less rushing touchdowns than the Heisman winner. Oh, and he didn't have a Brian Thomas and a Malik Neighbors who both went first round. He didn't have first round receivers. He had Tez Walker for less than half of the year. So when you're
what round
putting
was
up those,
Tez Walker drafted in? The 5th round?
The 5th round. And your best weapon was a 5th rounder, and you went out there and got 4,300 yards. 38 passing touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns. To some people, that might not relate or transcend. I would like to think that Jaden Daniels is shocking a whole lot of people right now with what he's doing with the Commanders, with what he's doing with that offense. And I'm confident that it's not a comparison sake of skill set and playmaking ability, but mentally, I see a leader when I see Jaden Daniels. Mentally, I see a Drake Maye that was humbled by getting benched. And I think that him getting the starting position, not comparing him to Brady, but remember, Brady's job was just to come in until Drew Bledsoe got better. When he got back that bill of health, it was still Brady's team. And I'm looking forward to Drake Maye saying, I dare you to tell me I'm sitting on my ass again, because it's not happening. I guarantee you he's going to go out there and at least give me 200 yards passing, at least give me a passing touchdown with no turnovers. That's, to me, is bar minimum. That's what I'm expecting. And it's not going to be late game stat padding numbers. It's not going to be us getting blown out and him putting up stupid, like sad, empty numbers. I can see him keeping this game close enough to where it's within reach. Even though I don't think we're going to win, I'm going to take the points because I think the game is just going to be a lot closer than we think, because we have somebody on offense that can actually come in and make the necessary plays that we need.
Well, just to point out, because his first opponent's going to be Houston Texans at home, thankfully, so you're going to have the hometown crowd with you. This is a team that is giving up around 23 points per game, which is honestly even more than what they're getting, because they're averaging about 20 points per game, which is shocking considering what we expected from them. But they are only surrendering 770 net passing yards. That's for the entire season, averaging 154 a game. So that defense may give him some trouble, no pun intended, but they're susceptible to giving up points. So I feel like if right now, first game, first start, if he can just simply manage things, he doesn't have to play superhero in his first start. Manage it, make the throws that you need to make, spread out that defense so that way you can also get the running game going. And you got a chance for a possible upset, which, hey, I would love to see that, because his second game, like Rob said, is going to be facing off against the Jaguars in London. And London is basically Jacksonville 2.0, the way that the Jaguars end up going there. That's basically a home game for them. But cannot wait to see that. And we are still sticking with the AFC because we have one game that we need to talk about. One game that was an overtime thriller. One game that is showing that the Cincinnati Bengals are trying to ruin what would obviously look like a Joe Burrow MVP season right now, if the numbers say it all. The Cincinnati Bengals lost to the Baltimore Ravens in overtime versus a team in Baltimore that is notorious for choking in the second half of games. And they were choking the first half of this game. Cincinnati should have took this one, but they literally gave it up in more ways than one. They gave it up on an interception in the fourth quarter. I don't know how you threw that one. Gave up a field goal to tie the game. Got a 3-and-out when you had the ball for the first possession in overtime. And then Derrick Henry put the crown on and said, I'm just going to run it down their throats on the first play of our possession. And we're going to get this field goal.
Who predicted that? Who predicted that they were? I'm pretty sure if you go look back at the episode, I said Derrick Henry was going to run all over that Cincinnati. I mean, it's not too much of a proclamation because that defense for the Bengals is dog shit.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I'm getting at. Joe Burrow has come back from an injury. And yes, in the beginning of the season struggled because it's the Cincinnati Bengals. They always struggle in the beginning of the season. But he is performing like a top 3 quarterback right now, if not top 1 this season.
No, it's top 1. It's top 1. 12 passing touchdowns first, two interceptions, third fewest in the NFL, 1,370 passing yards, third in the NFL, 72.2 completion percentage, third in the NFL, 113.6 passer rating, first in the NFL.
So let's be honest, and here's the question. Is this defense and coaching, because I always say it's also the coaching, are they failing Joe Burrow right now?
I said this before the season. I think it's just the defense. I don't know if it's so much coaching. It might be some of the situational issues, but that defense, you can't expect Trey Hendrickson being the only thing that could stop anything on that defense. I mean, you look, Sam Hubbard just sees people run right by him. I mean, nice attempt at Lamar Jackson, but I don't know, man. They're gonna have to really Jesse Bates not there anymore, right?
No.
Losing players, losing all these players, man, it was like their detriment. And it's just sad, man, because you got a guy that's playing like an MVP, and your defense, he may score 38 points, but your defense will give up 41. That's not a recipe for success. And I said at the beginning of the season when the Patriots are going to play the freaking Bengals, I said the Patriots are going to win because the Bengals can't stop the run. And when you have Derrick King Henry, who basically you have to throw a fucking refrigerator at to tackle, when you can't tackle that guy, you don't have the defensive interior to stop that guy, good fucking luck. Because that you got to stop him. And I said this before. Literally, there's a short on Instagram. I said, if you can't stop Derrick Henry, or if you do stop Derrick Henry, you're going to have to deal with Lamar Jackson. And that's just a two-headed monster that I don't think most teams can compete with.
Yeah, when I look at their stats, they're ranked 30th in opponent touchdowns per game. Their defense is ranked 30th there. They're ranked 31st in third down conversions. They're ranked 30th in fourth down conversions, which, if you can believe it, teams are converting 77% of their fourth downs. And that isn't dead last. I don't even want to know who's dead last. Jesus Christ, you're converting 3 out of 4 fourth downs. I think that teams are now going to start keeping their kickers on the sideline if they're past a certain yard line because of how terrible this defense is. But their offense ranks 3rd in points per game, 28. They rank 5th in yards per play, 6.2. And they ranked 3rd in touchdowns per game at 3.5. So to everything you guys have mentioned, it's not the offense, all right? It's not Zach Taylor, and it's not Joe Burrow right now. It's the defense. It's the exact opposite of what we just talked about with the Jets. Nathaniel Hackett should have been the one on the hot seat because the offense is not holding up their end of the deal. But this is what we see the difference. We see a team that's 1-4, and the GM didn't go crazy and start moving pieces around. The GM didn't go crazy and say, hold up, wait, somebody needs to go. We got off to a horrible start. Why? Because the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl when they were 2-3. Is 1-4 different than 2-3? Yeah, sure it is. But am I saying their season is done? No, I'm not saying that at all. Not in this division where teams are going to split. I can see all 4 teams, but I don't see any team getting a clean sweep between the Browns, the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Bengals. I don't see a single team finishing this year 2-0 against any other team. They are all going to split, which means if they can somehow go 9-8 like the Bucs did when they won the NFC South and end up beating Philly, stunning Philly and making it to the divisional round, I can see something similar happening like that. Maybe they need to make a splash before the trade deadline. Who knows? But if you have that bad of a defense and the game was still taking to overtime, that just tells me if you can get somebody to run or to curate a type of defense to where you can at least limit the time of possession, limit the time that the defense is out on the field, limit the fact that these drives are way too long for the defense to be out there. You're not giving Burrow enough time to go out there and do what he does, because the defense has just been giving up too many third down conversions, as we see too many fourth down conversions. That game had no business going to overtime. So if you ask me, I don't think the season is over. I mean, we've seen both the Bengals and the Niners in separate Super Bowls, but both have made it to the Super Bowl after starting off with a losing record before Week 8. So I'm not necessarily gonna go crazy just yet, but I do think the defense needs some work.
Duke Tobin, the de facto GM, director of player personnel for the Cincinnati Bengals. Listen to my words. And I hit more than I miss. Just listen. Go get Robert Salah. Go get him now. Get him in there, and he will help you wherever you can. Is it going to be something that's going to be overnight? No. But he's not going to have anybody banging down his door to get him as a head coach. So you're going to have a defensive coordinator for the foreseeable future. Go get Robert Salah.
I'm looking up what are the chances for the Bengals to make the playoffs right now, because I have not really known a situation where a 1-4 team can actually make the playoffs. Right now, they have it looks like a 13% chance. So odds are still pretty good, better than what I would have concerned. I did an episode with Sammy on this very show not too long ago, where we were talking about teams that were ready to panic. And I said, if the Bengals beat the Panthers, then they're on the right track. I take that back and I say, if they do not beat the Giants on Sunday Night Football, mind you, they are also, the Bengals, without one of their starting cornerbacks in Dax Hill, who went down with a torn ACL. He's out for the year. So that defense that's already horrible just got a little bit worse. And
mind you, the Giants just beat the Seahawks, which was an improbable victory. And Brian Dable was strutting his
and it should have been worse. It should have been 29-13, but because of a bullshit fumble in the first possession. You can say whatever you want. You can say whether it was a touchdown or not. I believe it is, but I'm also biased because I'm a fan. If you do not beat the Giants, you are going to MetLife Stadium. Daniel Jones struggles in primetime games. He's only won one in his entire career so far. You have to play this Giants offense that is now starting to click in both the run and even the pass. And oh yeah, that defense only gives up one touchdown a game. On average, the defense themselves. If you can't win that game, then it's really panic time in Cincinnati. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm definitely watching that game very closely. If it wasn't for the fact that I worked, I would be at MetLife for that game just to see it all happen. But that is all the time that we have here at the Gridiron. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Be sure to comment down what you thought about our stories below. Do you think Salah deserved to get fired? What do y'all think about Drake Maye starting for the Patriots? And is it panic time in Cincinnati? Let us know down below. Also, check out all of our sponsors, also linked down in the description. Thank you guys so much. This is Justin here along with Rob and T, and we will see you guys next time.